Officer Tatum's newest Nolan Wells interview was supposed to answer one explosive question: what did the people on that CTO call really say? But after listening closely, the interview may not settle the debate at all. It reveals how Nolan's friends interpret the recording, why they say the online accusations make no sense, and how a disputed piece of audio can sound completely different once someone tells you what to hear. Today, we are separating three things: what the official recording confirms, what the interviewees claim, and what still requires a qualified forensic examination. In the new sit-down, former police officer and commentator Brandon Tatum spoke with Warren Hudson, Jack Spatalo, Morgan Seymour, and their defamation attorney, Edward Paltzik. The interview focused on the backlash they have faced, the viral versions of the CTO call, and their belief that the public has judged them before the investigation is complete. They described threats, public confrontations, and lives turned upside down. Their attorney said his clients did nothing wrong and discussed possible legal action over accusations made online. Those statements matter because they show the other side of a deeply emotional public dispute. But this was a media interview, not a sworn statement, courtroom examination, or official forensic finding. Here is what reliable reporting says the released call confirms. At about 4 p.m. on July 4th, someone from a boat near the west tip of Horn Island called CTO. The caller reported that the bilge pump had stopped working and said the boat was sinking. The caller provided coordinates, asked for help getting the boat pumped and towed, and said there were about 7 people aboard. When the dispatcher asked whether everyone on board was in good health, the caller said yes. CTO ultimately did not tow the boat. That is the verified context of the recording. The call documents a real boat emergency. It does not, by itself, identify every background speaker or establish what happened to Nolan afterward. One detail needs special attention. When the caller said everyone was on board, that does not automatically mean Nolan Wells was on that boat. It can reasonably mean everyone who was actually aboard at that moment was accounted for. Authorities told reporters that witnesses said Nolan was not on the boat when it left the island. Nolan's friends have maintained that he chose to remain behind after the boat trouble. His parents dispute that account, saying separation from the group would have been out of character, especially without his phone. Both positions are part of the public record. Neither interpretation of one short answer can replace the complete timeline, witness interviews, location evidence, and forensic findings. In Tatum's interview, the friends rejected claims that the background audio captures a conversation about Nolan being dead. Their basic argument was straightforward: people are hearing what they expect to hear. They also questioned why they would call CTO and later contact the Coast Guard if they were trying to hide something. That is a fair question and it deserves consideration. It is also an argument, not scientific proof. A person's explanation can be credible, incomplete, mistaken, or fully accurate. The job of an investigation is to compare that explanation against independent evidence. The interview gives viewers their reasoning in their own words, but it cannot authenticate a viral audio enhancement or conclusively identify an unclear background phrase. This is where the story becomes more important than one interview. A forensic audio analyst warned that online cleanup can create artifacts, sounds introduced or exaggerated by filtering, compression, noise reduction, and repeated processing. The best analysis begins with the closest available original file, a documented history of that file, and a method another expert can reproduce. A version downloaded, reposted, compressed, labeled with suggested words, and then enhanced again is not equivalent to the source recording. Once captions tell your brain that a muffled sound says a particular phrase, confirmation bias can make that phrase feel obvious. Remove the caption, and listeners may hear something entirely different. So the real test is not whether Officer Tatum, Nolan's friends, or social media commentators sound confident. The test is whether qualified analysts, working from the best source file, can isolate a phrase without over-filtering it, document every step, and reach a conclusion that survives independent review. Nolan's family has said its legal team retained audio engineers to examine the call. Until a reliable analysis is released with an understandable method, nobody online should present a disputed phrase as settled evidence. Asking what the audio contains is responsible. Declaring that an unclear sound proves murder, a cover-up, or innocence is not. Questions are necessary. Accusations require evidence. The interview did provide useful information. It showed that Warren, Jax, and Morgan deny involvement in Nolan's death. It documented the fear and harassment they say they have experienced. It explained how they interpret the boat emergency and why they reject the viral audio claims. It also showed the legal battle developing around public commentary. Those are meaningful updates. They help viewers understand why the case has become a second crisis online, where a search for answers can quickly become doxing, threats, and unsupported allegations. No family seeking truth should be attacked. No witness or friend should be declared guilty by a comments section. Fairness has to apply in both directions. But the interview did not determine Nolan's cause or manner of death. It did not release the official autopsy or toxicology results. It did not establish exactly who produced every sound in the background of the call. Here is the follow-up question I would ask Officer Tatum: will every side support release of a properly authenticated audio analysis, including the method, the source file history, and the limits of what can be heard? Not a louder clip. Not a captioned social media loop. A documented examination that independent experts can evaluate. I would also ask for a simple visual timeline comparing the boat's coordinates, departure time, phone activity, witness sightings, search calls, and the last confirmed contact with Nolan. The truth will not be found by choosing the most dramatic voice. It will be found where multiple pieces of independent evidence agree. My final take is this: Officer Tatum's interview deserves to be heard because the friends are entitled to explain their side. Nolan's family deserves the same respect when they demand a complete and transparent investigation. But the interview is not the verdict, and a viral enhancement is not forensic proof. The most honest answer today is that the CETO call documents a frightening boat emergency while disputed background speech remains unverified. If you want coverage that separates confirmed facts from allegations and opinion, subscribe to Couch Watch with Ken and turn on notifications. Then tell me in the comments, did this interview answer your questions, or did it make professional audio analysis even more important?